Though we want to continue coverage of the shooting out of Georgia.
This morning, new details in the Georgia high school shooting that killed 2 students and 2 teachers.
What happens when the quiet town you thought was safe is shaken to its core by an unimaginable tragedy? Could it have been stopped, or did we miss the warning signs? Winder, Georgia, a place where everyone knew each other, where peace reigned, and where no one imagined the violence that would unfold at Appalache High School on a tragic Wednesday morning. It was a place where football games were the biggest source of excitement, where the community came together for BBQs and prayer vigils, and where parents trusted their children would be safe at school. But that serenity was shattered when the deadliest school shooting of the year erupted, leaving 4 innocent lives lost and a town drowning in grief. This story isn't just about what happened that fateful day. It's about what led to it, the missed opportunities, the red flags no one acted on, and a father's tragic decision to allow access to deadly weapons in his home. But could any of this have been stopped? As investigators and reporters scrambled to piece together the details, one name became painfully clear. Colt Gray, a 14-year-old student at Appalache High School, stood at the center of the chaos. He wasn't just another troubled teen, he had a history. The signs were there, but no one acted until it was too late. What we're learning now, in the aftermath of this horrific shooting, is that Colt had been on the radar of law enforcement for over a year. In 2023, just months before the shooting, investigators in Jackson County had received a series of anonymous tips about Colt. The tips warned of online threats that hinted at violence, and even at a possible school shooting. Those who knew him described him as quiet, withdrawn, but there were other clues hidden in his writing and online activity. Authorities did investigate. They interviewed Colt and his father, Colin Gray. When asked about the weapons in their home, Mr. Gray admitted to owning hunting rifles, but swore up and down that his son didn't have unsupervised access to them. The result? There wasn't enough probable cause for an arrest. And so, life went on. Colt returned to school, his father kept the guns, and the town of Winder continued its peaceful existence until it all came crashing down. The day of the tragedy. Wednesday started out like any other day at Appalache High. Students filed into classrooms, teachers prepped for lessons, and Colt Gray walked into school carrying something no one could have imagined: a rifle. An AR-15 style weapon designed for warfare, not for school hallways. The shots rang out at 9:45 a.m. 4 students never made it home that day. 4 families torn apart in an instant. The town, the school, the state, everyone was left asking the same question. How could this happen here? Winder, Georgia wasn't supposed to be the site of a mass shooting. It was supposed to be safe, tucked away from the violence that plagued bigger cities. But the reality is, no place is immune. As the dust settled, more disturbing details emerged. Investigators had searched Colt's home, and what they found was chilling. Documents and writings that referenced past school shootings. It was clear Colt had been planning this for some time. But the shock didn't end there. Colin Gray, Colt's father, was soon arrested and charged. 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 8 counts of cruelty to children. His crime? Allowing his son access to those deadly weapons. He knew Colt had been troubled. He knew there had been warnings, and yet he did nothing to stop it. How does a father allow this to happen? Was it ignorance, negligence, or something darker? That's a question the town of Winder is still grappling with. On Thursday, the town gathered, not for a football game as they would have on any other Thursday, but for a vigil. Hundreds stood in silence at the Appalache High football stadium, candles flickering in the cool Georgia night. They prayed for the victims, for the families, and for a future where no town has to endure what they're going through. But behind the prayers and the memorials, there was anger. Anger at Colt, at his father, at the system that had allowed this to happen. Many asked why the warning signs were ignored, why authorities didn't take the threat seriously. It's easy to say in hindsight that more should have been done. But where is the line between protecting civil liberties and preventing potential tragedies? Should Colt have been arrested a year ago? Should his father have lost custody or faced charges before the shooting? These are the questions that haunt the town now. The legal battle ahead. Colt Gray is facing 4 counts of felony murder, but he's just 14. What will the legal system do with a young boy who committed such an unfathomable act? Will he be tried as an adult? Will he spend the rest of his life behind bars? Or is there hope for rehabilitation? And what about his father, Colin? His trial will likely be just as high profile. His charges suggest that the court views him as a major factor in what happened. But can you really blame a parent for the actions of their child? Where does his responsibility begin and end? These are the tough questions that will be debated in courtrooms and newsrooms alike in the months to come. Could this have been prevented? Looking back, it's hard not to ask if all of this could have been avoided. There were anonymous tips, online threats, red flags that went ignored. Colt had already been interviewed by law enforcement, and his father knew the danger of having weapons in the home. Some say that gun laws are to blame, that tighter regulations could have prevented Colt from getting his hands on that rifle. Others argue it's a mental health crisis, that Colt's actions were a result of untreated trauma or psychological issues. In the end, it's a combination of factors: family, society, the easy access to firearms, and the failure of institutions to act on early warning signs. But assigning blame doesn't bring back the lives lost that day. With that said, remember to cherish the peace and safety in your community. Advocate for stronger protections. Listen when someone cries for help, and never forget those who were lost. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please subscribe for more coverage on stories that matter.